Matthew Milia, good to see you, man. One of my good friends, one of my favorite songwriters, and you're piping in from Michigan,
Troy, Michigan.
Troy, Michigan. Are you working a gig in advertising as well these days?
Yeah, I am an associate creative director at Leo Burnett, which is a famous historic ad agency
Yeah.
in such shows as Mad Men. uh, but I'm in Detroit, so we work on some car brands. So if you
Which
see,
uh which character would you be if you were on Mad Men? Which one do you relate to the
I'm
most?
kind of like Machiavellian in my machinations and schemes, like Pete Campbell,
Okay.
but with I think a better heart. I don't know. By
Yeah,
the end, you kind of came around to Pete as a person, but Mad Men is just my all-time favorite show. I think it's a work of art.
it's good, man. And yeah, you're back at it. You were taking a little bit of a breather. You had a baby. I think you got married, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Um,
we got married like a week before the shutdown of the pandemic in or February of 2020.
As a
So
as a as a person who's really been, I mean, you've been like a full-time working musician for a long time, I think over a decade. What was it like to all of a sudden get like a real job and kind of take your foot off the gas of the music for a second?
that happened in summer of 2019. I Frontier Ruckus put out our first record in 2008, and we basically toured the U.S. and Europe nonstop for 10 years. And by the time we released our last record, which came out in 2017, Enter the Kingdom, I met my now wife like right when that came out, and I went on like a month long European tour and another month long US tour, and I just met this person, and I'm like, I don't want to tour anymore.
Yeah.
I just missed her so much. She actually, I like brought her out to Pittsburgh on a Greyhound bus because I couldn't like stand being away from her. It's real emo, sappy stuff, but I was like, I don't know, it just really changed my priorities. And so yeah, when 2019 came around, I was like, if I'm not going to tour nonstop to pay rent, I should get a real job. A real job in quotes.
Yeah.
I should find another way to make money because I basically had to stay on the road constantly to make ends meet, which is still a privilege for a musician to be able to do that. But
Yeah.
so I became a 32-year-old intern at a different ad agency, sitting at a table with 20-year-olds fresh out of portfolio school, which was very humbling for me, who's like this, my whole identity up to then was like lead singer guy, had moments like playing Bonnaroo and Lollapalooza. Now I'm just like sitting with 20-year-olds who see me as their peer, and I didn't know shit from Shinola when it came to advertising yet. I could write circles around all of them. That's why I got kind of like weaseled my way in the door, and that's why I quickly was, graduated from not being an intern anymore. I've risen the ranks at kind of a meteoric speed because I'm almost 40. So it would be kind of sad if I didn't. But yeah, that's kind of a short story, the short version of how I got into advertising.
What was it like? I mean, I think we come from a similar school of songwriting and the fact that, a bit of a sense of humor, kind of geeky, absolutely no rules, use whatever words you want. No, you don't have to abide by the Nashville song structure. What is it like to have total freedom like that, say whatever you want, sing whatever you want, and then all of a sudden go into the advertising world and have to write for clients who are might not even know what's best for them?
It really depends on the account and the client. Sometimes that's a huge advantage. I mean, when it comes to like just getting a job in advertising at an agency, it kind of made things easier because the agency side folks are all they're creatives, and they want folks that can think outside the box. That was I kind of worked that to my advantage. The fact that I wasn't writing copy like everyone out of portfolio school, I came from a totally different tack or angle. The decades that I've spent honing my voice as a songwriter is the only reason I'm any good at the creative side of advertising. I know how to turn a blank page into something that resonates with people. So that's I must say writing is becoming a very a rarer and rarer skill set. I think I mean with the advent of AI, that's just one side of it. But like I think people are really just becoming worse writers overall. It's less of a priority in everyday life that as a letter writing in the past, or like it was just way more in the fabric of our daily lives. And I just that people are finding other ways to express themselves, but like the written word is really kind of dying.
I mean, what do you see with the future of like print media, print books in particular? Do you think you see a revival there, or do
I
you
don't
just see us going in the direction of telekinetically, telepathically communicating?
probably go the direction of vinyl records, which have like a novelty kind of comeback. Like people appreciate them in a nostalgic context, but also audiophiles, see LPs as like a holy grail of listening. Maybe the book will be like, oh, you know, The Great Gatsby isn't the same unless you have paper in your hands, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know. It would be so sad if we lived in a world without books. I don't even want to think about it.
yeah, it's a weird thought, and it's like, I mean, to me, like the only way to like retain any value from all that stuff is just like utilizing scarcity. And it's just like we're kind of to a point at a band now where it's like, well, let's print less copies and maybe there's only 250 and then you can sell them all and you're like, hey, we're not going to repress these. And oh shit, I just my light just exploded there. But that just seems like a way to kind of get people excited in the age of everything's infinite. You have everything at all times, so
Yeah, it's like
scarcity
maybe I
seems to
don't
be the
need a
thing.
thousand copies in my basement.
Mhm.
at
Yeah.
my at our last house in Southwest Detroit, where you actually stopped by once,
Yes, yes.
we lost like the entire Frontier Ruckus inventory of records in a flood.
Oh
The
Jesus
day that my
Christ.
wife and I were going to Mexico City, like we had just a terrible flood, like feet of water, standing water in our basement, and we had a flight like that morning to go to Mexico, and we were like, we gotta go, so we just left our house with water and all of our
Oh
records just
Jesus.
floating, and kind of my parents graciously came over like after the water subsided and kind of did a minor cleanup to get us through to when we returned. But
That would have been
after
good
that, we're like,
content,
we don't
Milia.
need to do these huge runs of records anymore. It's just not the same climate as when we started in 2008.
Yeah, totally. I mean, tell me about that. Like, we met up years ago. I think I was on my way to a tour in Ontario or something, and we had a few beverages at your local watering hole and talked about some of this stuff. But that was a while ago. Tell me about 2008, 2009. Like, how'd you get on the rocket ship? How did you end up playing Bonnaroo and Lollapalooza? It's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we call it the great banjo boom of the 2000s, right? I don't know,
That's right.
but we started before that, and then we kind of benefited from it a bit, even though, like you said, my songwriting is idiosyncratic like yours. Like, I wasn't writing four on the floor, kind of Mumford and Sonsy. Like, I probably would have done a lot better if I did. Um, I actually have a lyric that's like, if I were dumber and detestable, I'd be more successful. Not that those bands are detestable, but so to
Of
start
course.
in 2006, well, I started really writing like Frontier Ruckus songs like my freshman year of college at Michigan State, like 2004 and five. I was writing songs before that, but I don't consider them the same species. They
Mm,
were more bluegrassy, like straight ahead bluegrass songs. Then in college, I started like really mingling poetry with folk music and bluegrass, which kind of became the DNA of Frontier Ruckus. So with Davy Jones, the banjo
yeah,
player, who's been my best friend since high school.
amazing.
But then I got to Michigan State and I met Zach Nichols, who plays trumpet and melodica and singing saw and all these cool, strange, eccentric instruments that I had always heard as part of the sound. And we met Anna Birch my sophomore year, her freshman year of college, who became another best friend and obviously had such an impact on our sound in terms of harmony. She's like the
Hmm.
most naturally gifted harmony singer I've ever met. And we met our drummer Ryan Etzker. So like we became this fully fledged folk rock band, and like Davey went to U of M, so we had like parallel path Ann Arbor and Lansing as like these big markets for us, and started filling out the clubs there.
Yeah.
And by the time I graduated, get my senior year at Michigan State, we'd finished recording our debut record, The Orient Songbook, and released it on a Michigan label called Quite Scientific, and got our first booking agent. Um, no, we didn't get our first booking. We went on our first like tour with like a U-Haul trailer, just booking whatever we could ourselves. And then through MySpace and through a mutual, a great now a great friend, Samantha Crane, who actually officiated my wedding. She discovered us somehow, like through a Michigan connection, and she's an amazing songwriter. If listeners don't know Samantha Crane, listen to her. She was managed and on the label of Ramster Records, which is Dolphus Ramster, who manages the Avett Brothers and has
Mm,
since they started. He messaged us on MySpace and immediately started booking us. Started being
nice.
our manager and wanted to put out our next record. And we're like, oh my God, we made it. This is
That's
awesome.
huge.
I didn't
Yeah.
really listen to the David Brothers, but I knew they were quite successful. Um, and they had a banjo, so there was some cosmetic similarities. That, very good band. Um, very honest songwriting. Nothing negative to say there. And you know, being with Dolph was really beneficial. He got us our first booking agent. He got us on Bonnaroo. Um, but you know that ran its course. Like I think he kind of realized after a while, like he was looking for um, simpler songs. Just I don't know. All my songs are just very Michigan centric, and I write hyper specifically about my existence and my locality. So not the most marketable thing. We've had like a string of managers and booking agents that have learned that the hard way. But there is, for the people that get it, really get it, and
Of course.
but trying to like shoehorn that to a mainstream audience is proven difficult.
Yeah, I mean it's a tale as old as time.
Mhm.
You want to sell more records, you gotta water it down a little bit.
Yeah, and I love pop music. I mean, like, I tried like with my two solo records. I'm like, I'm gonna write like I've really fallen in love with like '90s power pop, like
Oh yeah.
well, not just '90s, but like coming out from like the Birds, that lineage of like the Birds, Big Star, like Teenage Fan Club. There's like this like just shimmery melodic music, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna write some power pop records, and then by the time they're done, they're just Matthew Milia, like 7 minute long, like lyrically dense about Michigan songs with power pop hooks. So I
Oh
failed to
man.
do that
Oh,
purely.
power pop fans always gel together. It's not the biggest genre of all time, but I mean, we have a lot of overlap in our obsession with Gin Blossoms and Bare Naked Ladies, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually like pen pals with Stephen Page because of you.
Nice, nice.
I was randomly with my ad agency at a Detroit Red Wings game, and Steven was just sitting next to us because he was opening for the Who the next night
That's
in this arena.
sweet.
And all my colleagues were like, "That's Stephen Page from Bare Naked Ladies," and I'm like, "Oh, Brett Newski knows him," and I used you as an
Hell
entree to
yeah.
just start talking to him, and now
That's
we like
great.
trade fashion tips on Instagram. So
That's incredible, man. Yeah, I saw that picture that really got me pumped up.
yeah,
Who are
I
your
use
other
you a lot.
thank you, Brew. It's an honor. Who are your other like musical heroes coming up?
I mean, it's the obvious folk rock kind of. I mean, my dad raised me on Bob Dylan and Neil Young. And, that led to Joni Mitchell, Paul Simon, Leonard Cohen, all the obvious like very lyrically inspired. Dylan and Neil Young were the heavy hitters for me. But I can't deny all the '90s radio pop, like alternative rock,
Yeah.
carpool to soccer practice, like environmental. Like I was just a sponge for all that stuff. I mean, and I think everyone is a sponge of what's of the pop music of like that's why John Lennon was trying to write '50s pop songs like with Phil Spector after the Beatles. Like you return, it's just what you I don't know. It's like a
It's imprinted
nascent
on
kind
you.
of
Yeah.
yeah. For us, it was for me and you. It was like Gin Blossoms and I mean everything from Oasis.
Well,
Is
those
huge
were
for me.
cool times in a sense that I mean, obviously you're young, it's all very novel, there's music videos on MTV, but
Hmm.
also you'll be sitting in a car going home from soccer practice and like you and the jock bro next to you who you would never have anything in common with are both like, "Oh, Mighty Mighty Bosstones. This song's cool."
Yeah,
And it's like that'll never happen again because jock bros aren't it's a
yeah,
different game now, but that was a cool thing. And it's even now anyone kind of in our age ballpark, it's like we can still bond over those radio tracks from the 90s, no
hmm,
matter what kind of social circle you hang out in.
yeah.
Oh, I took a sip of coffee. I thought you were gonna have a ping pong back. I got
I'm
nothing.
sorry. No, once I started talking about '90s alternative rock, I need to put a cork in on this. All we'll talk about. But remember the AV Undercover, that cool series we did. We had like a menu of
Oh
songs
yeah.
we were asked to pick from, and of course I picked Third Eye Blind, Semi Charmed Life,
Oh,
and
nice. Okay.
and then like people always ask for that at shows. I'm like, no, I don't remember.
Right. That was a
I've never
big
done crystal meth.
that was kind of like the peak. Was Third Eye Blind into crystal meth?
That's what that song's about.
Oh, I did see an interview with him, I don't know, from several years ago, and he was tweaking out on something, like sweating profusely, like eyeballs popping out of his head, getting way too close to the interviewer lady.
At least he's authentic to his songwriting. That's
Um, what is it kind of the band about to do here? You're putting out a record. Are you pumped? Are you going to do the UK circuit? You pumped to get back at it?
yeah. So the record came out last month, and we're doing like a Michigan tour, like very protractedly. Like we're playing in Three Oaks tomorrow. We're just playing all these really leaning into the Michigan ethos that is Frontier Ruckus. But yeah, we're going to the UK to do 2 weeks in May, and or we're playing with a band called the Handsome Family from
Oh, I
Chicago.
remember them. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a great label in London called Loose Music, who's been really supportive of us. We might be going back to Europe, and I don't know at the end of the end of summer. Like I said or alluded to earlier, like touring nonstop is no longer a possibility nor really a desire. But we were trying to do like more strategic runs, maybe like hit the West Coast for like a long weekend or
Any
casual touring.
notable weird venues kind of in your recollection, as that's kind of a staple of the pod? Any
So I
hilariously
remember
soul
our
crushing
first
shows?
our first European tour we booked it ourselves. That's like that's how I this festival in Norway flew us over, and then like we're like, oh, we're coming over, we might as well try to get some other shows, and that's how we fell in with the Windmill in London. Tim Perry at the Wind. Have you ever played in the Windmill?
No, I have not.
Oh my God, you would. It's perfect for you. You should. They were famous for the roof dog. They had a dog that lived on the roof. Um,
Cool.
it's like at the end of this cul-de-sac in Brixton. Um, but anyway, that tour we booked a show in Netherlands, some maybe Amsterdam, and it fell through. So we like can't. Oh, like sorry to all our Dutch fans that don't exist, but we can't come. And like one guy, one like middle-aged dad, like messages us on Facebook. He's like, I'm so sad. He's like really into like indie rock, and he's like, I've been
Yeah.
looking forward to this show for months. Like please come to my village. Yeah, so this guy invited us to this town called Nordbrook in the middle of farm country in the Netherlands, and um, we had no idea what to expect. And he had a case of Grolsch waiting for us, and the entire townsfolk were assembled in this 14th century cathedral in the middle of
Cool.
town, like ranging all ages. It was like the only thing in town that anyone was doing that night, and we played completely acoustic in the middle of like these like decay like beautiful frescoes from the 14th century, and
Wow.
we just stood in the middle of the church and just like spun around and sang to these people, and they bought every piece of merch we had, and it was amazing.
That
Yeah,
is
stuff like
amazing,
that.
dude.
Yeah, just really
It's
sticks with
like it's incredible the power of like one fan they can have, especially when they have social skills and can rally the town,
you. I know.
It carries so much weight, and it's such a massive boost to morale when you're out there.
Shit like that's kind of always been our MO. Like we always preferred living room shows to empty dive bars. I
Of
don't know. Like,
course. Of
yeah,
course.
we're very lyrically intensive. So the more people are listening and just kind of hushed and sitting Indian style on a carpet, I don't know, it just benefits the Frontier Ruckus experience.
Do you do them do you tour with the PA when you do house gigs?
No,
Or do you just
we
really
typically just do
unplugged?
it as a trio with Dave, Zach, and I, and play completely unplugged.
And that doesn't bother your voice at all, huh?
No, I give Dave glares when the banjo's too loud, but
Yeah. Banjos are, I mean, that's one of the loudest instruments unplugged, isn't it?
oh, I know. Yeah.
What have you been doing to kind of maintain your mental health and stay in a good headspace?
Well, my wife and I started doing transcendental meditation, TM, about a year and a half ago, probably, and that helps a lot. I don't do it as much as I should. You're supposed to do it twice a day, but I don't. I mean, we have a 1 year old now, so uh, I also very recently have some pharmacological help. So that's I'm about a month and a half into taking Lexapro. So,
Oh, right on. Yeah, same. I'm on the Prozac,
oh yeah,
we're the sertraline duo, you and I.
how long how long has that been going on?
I had a really rough year last year. Just a lot going on, too much on the calendar, and I was kind of ping-ponging off some different medications to see which one would work. And I went on like Paxil for a minute, and that was horrible. I mean, that's like an old school antidepressant, and that like coming off that was insane. Like
Oh
it was,
man.
I felt I've never been that unstable or like that wobbly or that like I wouldn't say I was suicidal, but I could kind of see into how people get there coming off of this stuff because just like unbelievable. But yeah, feeling pretty good now. Having a lighter calendar has really helped tremendously. I have such an issue, Amelia, with like when I get up in the morning, I my brain is like ahead of my body, and I'm like, all right, gotta start doing stuff, gotta start whatever, making things happen so I don't go unemployed. And I think just waking up and, leaving the phone for an hour or two, staying away from the computer, just easing into the day, like just sitting there and doing nothing, maybe holding a warm cup of coffee and doing nothing is like, that
Mm.
seems to be helping. Because I don't know, you get the work done, eventually. And I don't have the luxury of, I mean, sorry, I have the luxury of not having a 1-year-old, so I'm just trying to go
Well,
slower
I
because I'm
might
such a
say that.
maniac.
Well, I'm first of all, I'm sorry you've had a rough time, and I'm glad you're doing better. For me, I would say I have the luxury of having a 1-year-old because it's put so much
Yeah,
joy in my life. Like
totally.
to worry about someone else more than myself has actually been a relief. Because like for me,
Yeah.
I'm an only child. Um, I'm a songwriter, so like I'm just like in this constant like self perpetuating thought loop of negative ideation, or just really neurotic thinking, which I did use to my benefit in writing a lot of songs, and I think art kind of spins out of that naturally. Like it comes from introversion and self
Hmm.
analysis, but there's definitely a tipping point where that is very unhealthy. Um, so, and my songwriting is so classically so backwards facing, like nostalgia and like just like deep analysis of childhood traumas and glories and just like the beauty and the disaster of the past little corridors of my life.
Hmm.
But now for the first time, that this new record on the Northline by Frontier Ruckus, little plug there, is me like taking stock of like late 30s, but actually like living in the moment more and just like being present. I think, like you said, just like being present more and um, kind of stopping yourself from whether it's like looking backwards and hyper analyze everything or like projecting into the future, all like future anxieties. I was dealing with a lot of like health anxiety and hypochondria
Oh,
and
dude, spot on.
yeah,
How do you get past that? Like, that's been crippling me.
I like getting off the internet a bit. Well, definitely for health anxiety and not Googling stuff. And um, I don't know. Yeah, I've had every test imaginable. I'm like Woody Allen in most of his movies where he's, um,
Yeah.
but it's like nothing's good enough. And you'll always have being a living, breathing organism is a disaster waiting to happen. Like you just got to let go, you got to let go and just live every day. And like you say, like just take little moments, take pleasure and distract yourself from catastrophizing everything.
Yeah.
I
Easier
there,
said than done.
yeah, yeah. Therapy I've tried as well. I do find that uh, the low dose of SSRI I'm on currently has just helped wonders. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Big
I
time.
I don't like I'm not shilling pharmaceuticals or like recommending it to everyone, but and I don't and it does worry me that I'm like hurting other things like my dopamine levels or of course I've read all the side effects of this as well, so I'm still
Yeah.
catastrophizing some things, but
Yeah. I mean, I've heard from many a parent that the kiddo really takes you out of your own head, and I could see that. You just have less time, and I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe I got to get on this, Amelia. You
once
recommend?
again,
Do you think I can do it?
I'm
You
not
think I can have a
proposing.
kid?
I hate when people are like, oh, when are you gonna have a kid? Or like this is the only way to live a life. Like, I don't think that at all. I think it's such a personal decision. But for me personally, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I've never felt love so deep, and um, it, I don't know. Yeah,
Was
like
that in the
I was
cards for you
talking.
the whole time?
What's that?
Was that something you wanted to do like all along?
Yeah, I think eventually, and it's just the natural. progression of, like I was alluding to, like how my wife and I met, and it's just we consider the three of us as just like this one single love. It's hard to talk about with sounding like a hippy dippy asshole, but he's like the manifestation of our love, and um, it's I have so much to be grateful for. So that when I find myself like being neurotic or like worrying or complaining about little petty things, I'm like, dude, there's a good, like if I were to look back like at the end of my life to right now, like this is perfection. Like life,
Hmm.
I have so much to be grateful for. Like I'm just trying to have perspective and stop blowing things out of proportion, especially things that don't exist yet. I think that's what catastrophizing is. It's like worrying about things before they're even in your life.
Oh yeah, the script writing, man. Were your folks pretty neurotic? Did they pass that down to you?
Yes, in very different ways.
Yeah, same.
Um, they they're yin and yang. They like handle their anxieties like without talking about it too much. But um, I've inherited both negative ways of dealing with it.
I feel you, man. It's and the boomer generation, that was an era where like, this kind of stuff just got all swept under the rug and you just kind of dealt with it or didn't deal with it more so.
Yeah, I wonder what my son's Gen Alpha. I wonder if he'll be like, oh, my dad's a millennial. Like they're famous for so and so. I wonder what our
Well, now that you're way more chilled, maybe like the DNA that gets passed down will be much more zen as well, and
yeah.
he won't be as much of a circular thinker, you know. When
Circular
did you kind
thinking.
of discover do you remember a time in your childhood where you realized you had kind of some of the depression or the blues or the
It's
weird
way more
underwater
anxiety for
feelings?
me than depression.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I grew up going to meetings with my mom for her like clinically diagnosed anxiety disorder. So the word anxiety was on my docket from a very young age. Like we would
Yeah.
drive down to Toledo for like her like support group from Michigan, and I'm like, "Where are we going?" She's like, "Oh, it's my anxiety club." Or so it's like, and I mean, it became apparent very very early on that it was a family affair.
Mm.
So
Well, that's pretty progressive for the 90s right there, having anxiety going to anxiety club.
I I know, yeah, the boomers, I think some of them were more exploratory than others.
I need a club, Millie. I need a club. It
I
doesn't
think
even
we
have
should
to
just
be
we
an
just started our
anxiety.
own anxiety club.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take any club. It doesn't even have to be an anxiety club. I just need like a weekly kickball game, something consistent so I'm not just like in my house all the time, which I enjoy. I like making art in my house, but just having a consistent kind of
So I
group
play
of people.
soccer every Sunday morning in the over 30 league. Um,
Nice.
Soccer, and I mentioned like listening to Oasis and Gin Blossoms on the way to soccer practice, but I was like really into soccer as a kid, like travel soccer, like competitively, and
Yeah.
that actually made my anxiety. I think that's when I discovered I myself had it because it was so highly competitive. I sing about it in a lot of my songs, just about
Hmm.
how intense the parents were, these boomer parents,
Oh
like
yeah.
living out their own
Oh yeah.
frustrations through their kids, these soccer coaches. I
Psycho.
There's a lyric on the new record that's like, uh, you had the physique of a youth soccer travel coach. Your hatchback was matte black and sleek in its nightly approach. I still write about my soccer coaches from that time. I still Google their names and look them on Facebook. I'm like, ugh, like he cut me from the team. Like I don't know. It's like a deeply traumatizing period of my life that I still hark back to. I don't know. So playing. I don't know why I started talking about soccer. Oh,
No, I
because I
remember
still
those
play soccer,
days.
but
Yeah.
now I play for the joy of it. Because I really did. I love the sport, and now I get to just and I'm still pretty good at it.
Did that help you in music, like having that competitive kind of getting your ass kicked growing up?
It was definitely yeah. I've never really put those two together, but yeah, because so much of music is like watching your peers excel, or like um, taking the highs with the lows, or like imposter syndrome. You're always comparing
Yeah.
yourselves to others and being really bummed out about it. I kind of grew out of that like as our records progress. I mean, Frontier Ruckus put out, this is our sixth album. So like early on, we'd release a record and like have like a hot shot publicist or like manager and be like, um, we would like release a record, and like Fleet Foxes would release a record in December, and like we're getting no press, and I'm like quickly realizing what league we're in compared to others, and um, oh my god, it's demoralizing. But then you find your audience and you stop caring about that. That's again like imaginary stuff that you're imposing on yourself. Of course, it'd be great to be selling out theaters, but you're not. So just like be grateful to the fact that you have like people writing you fan mail and getting your lyrics tattooed on their arms. Like just take take the wins life gives you.
Yeah, you have to. Even really to have a car is pretty sweet. It's a
Man, we
hell of
got it
a
made
victory right there.
here in late stage capitalism. We got it made.
Do you have any like let's say the band hypothetically has infinite money, what do you spend it on?
Building a studio first and foremost. I think that's a great luxury to have, just like out in the woods of upstate Michigan or something. Um,
You
you
record a
mean
lot at home, right?
what? Yeah, I've recorded a lot with my buddy Ben Collins, who up until he just moved to LA, but he had just like a little bedroom studio in Ypsilanti that where we recorded this Frontier Ruckus record and where I recorded my two solo records,
Were
Kigo
those to
Harbor. And
analog tape or digital?
yeah, it was to a Tascam 337. Is that
Is
the
that
reel
two
to
inch
reel
tape?
8 track? What's that?
2 inch tape?
No, it's just quarter inch.
Okay, it's not cassette, right?
No, it's a quarter
Okay.
inch reel to reel.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, really cool. Um,
Are
warm
those easy
sound.
to use? Do you know, can you run them pretty well?
It actually broke on this Frontier Ruckus record. So some of the ends of the songs you can hear like the guitar just like warbling out. It was a cool effect that we kept in, but um, it was like in Big Lebowski, was like, you did it. You finally killed my fucking car. It was like, you did it. You finally killed my fucking tape machine.
Yeah, I've been really fascinated with tape lately, and I mean, I've said it before, but it just seems like making perfect sounding records is like the easy way out now. It's like it's actually harder to make something that sounds kind of flawed and damaged. So that gives me
Yeah.
a little bit of excitement, from a creative spot.
I love turning up mistakes and like just yeah. Well, I say that, but then there are times when I'm like hyper perfectionistic, and the cool thing to say is like be like the Beatles, turn up the mistakes, but
Turn up
you
the
still want
mistakes. Yeah.
yeah.
What kind of not to beat a dead horse with the mental health stuff, but I find it pretty interesting. Were there specific, like when you went on the road, were there specific like types of phobias you had, or what were the kind of the mental struggles in transit on the road with the band, and how did you kind of overcome them?
To be honest, I always got more bummed out when I got home.
Okay,
I
nice.
feel like I was always too distracted and like go 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 mode on the road. And you just have it's militaristic. You have such a routine. You know, you got to get to the next show. You got to sound check. You got to. It was when I got home and that just like life just slowed back down,
Yeah.
and you don't really have much to show for all that work you just did. That's when I would get really bummed out. But then I would start writing songs and I'd be like, oh yeah, now I the the loop like kind of like self perpetuates. But um, on the I had moments on the road as well, but for the most part, I was mostly distracted by the routine.
About approximately like how many like unreleased finished songs do you have sitting around?
Unreleased,
Yeah.
there's always a queue, but I've kind of exhausted a lot of that queue during the pandemic because I released two solo records and this Frontier Ruckus record, and now I'm starting to write like my first like fatherhood songs that are much happier, less classic Frontier Ruckus angsty, because some of them are written with my son sitting on my lap at the piano. We have like a
Oh,
real piano for the first time, and I feel like every instrument that you write a song on has like a different like the songs I write on piano are way different than the ones I would write on guitar. Um, so I'm writing a bunch of piano songs. I would say there's probably like 20 or 30 on like ready to go.
isn't it wild how like you go through your archives and you might not think of yourself as kind of a sad person or having like that emo DNA, but I just went through all my songs. I'm like, damn, I have like way too many sad songs, and this is like the first time I've been conscious of it. Like they're starting to accumulate. So now I'm like, all right, entering the optimism phase of songwriting.
Yeah, like somewhere along the line, I think like our third record, like Eternity of Dimming, I fell in love with like um signal crossing, like happy melodies with sad lyrics, like Orient Songbook and Dead Malls and Nightfalls are like a lot of minor key songs for like minor key feelings. But then around Eternity of Dimming, probably when I started getting more into like power pop, I was like, what if we keep the lyrics kind of like morose or like really melancholy, but like put it with like 12-string guitars and like shimmery I would love that juxtaposition. I think it's a classic pop trick of like marrying kind of somber subject matter with like buoyant melodies.
Oh, beautiful. Hell yeah. Could not agree more. Well, let's play one of the new tracks to kind of close out. Where should we send people before we do that?
Frontierruckus.com, of course, or all the common channels on social media. But yeah, we have some cool merch in our at frontierruckus.com. We have our own coffee blend at the moment. We have these hats
Nice.
that I'm wearing myself to promote at the ad agency.
Nice.
Um, yeah, and the new record is on double vinyl deluxe LP.
Double vinyl. Damn.
Because
Which song should we
my
play?
records are so long that they would sound really bad on a single.
I gotcha. Wait, what's the single? What are we gonna play out
Um,
here?
let's play a happy upbeat tune. This is called Clarkston Pasture.
All right, beautiful. Matthew Milia, Frontier Ruckus, Dirt from the Road. You're a good man. Thanks for coming on, dude.
You too. So good to talk to you.
Always much love.